Beautiful.
All right.
Like,
We'll call the meeting to order. Callie, if you'll take roll call.
Mayor,
Present.
Stephen Clark, council,
present.
Tyler Barton, council,
Present.
Tim Ficken, council,
Present.
Dan Zabrowski, council.
Present. Everyone rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
School crafts. I missed that.
They've missed two meetings, actually. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 6, 2025. I'll give that to Steve.
Take that.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I entertain a motion to approve the payables list for May 20th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Oof, man, you guys are like,
Dan's got it.
give it to Dan. It sounded like a tie, though. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the financial reports, balance sheet, detailed income statement, and trial balance for the period ending April 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
Thanks for the guidance.
I'm clicking my,
Our eyeball.
Shutting up.
hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I entertain a motion to approve the first reading for ordinance number 2025-01 annual appropriation ordinance budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That's a good catch by Callie on that one. She, we don't have to do a special session now, so we'll get it on our,
We only have three.
Oh, nice.
Yep, because we had to do that last
Another year
year.
for a long job.
That was a good catch by Callie. So,
I forgot we're getting that close.
Mr. Holscher.
Mayor, council, you got my report. Don't know that I have anything to add, so if there's questions.
It's been brought up again. I don't know. Do you have any update on what's going on with the property tax?
On the 8 mil situation, it's my effort to straighten that out is a little been added to in complication slightly because everybody I was in contact with down at the county attorney's office is gone. And so they just have an interim county attorney. I've been in contact with her about a whole bunch of things. She's kind of drinking from the fire hose right now. That does need to be straightened out, but everybody I was in contact with is now gone. So take it back up with her or the new county attorney when that person starts, whoever that person is.
Does it have to be the county attorney? Can it not be the treasurer and the county commissioners?
It definitely can be. So generally, when I
Of
approach,
course, they're going to want to ask their attorney.
right, yeah, particularly with the commissioners. Generally, when I approach the commissioners, I always include the county attorney, and usually start there because my chances of getting on their radar are a lot better if I start with the county attorney's office, or at least it was under the last county attorney. With the treasurer's office, they usually kind of defer back to the county attorney. So no, we don't have to go directly to the county attorney, and we might have to go directly to those offices. As noted, I mean, our situation was complicated a little bit because everybody left.
Pat, can we just, for sake of brevity in the situation, can we just, I mean, because I do want to include the county attorney, but we don't even know who that is right now. Can we just, because this is still ongoing right now.
And I actually have talked, for what it's worth, to the treasurer's office on this directly. And well, I mean, it's actually a little worse than it seems because they don't know, they're not done catching all of the tax year until they begin listing properties for delinquent taxes. So I talked to the individual who was responsible for it, and they weren't even complete at that time. So I've explained the problem to them. It does need to be addressed. It's a little complicated for them to actually mathematically address it, and they don't even know the magnitude of it right now.
So,
Does that make sense?
no, it makes sense. So in the meantime, can we just get them to stop charging?
Asked them to stop. So so I've asked them to stop. Can I get them to stop? I mean, it's a little bit like stopping a train because they're dealing with back taxes at the same time. And
Honestly, at this point, Pat, and I don't know the rest of you guys, sometimes to get their attention, it takes a little bit more of a message. And I think a forceful letter, certified, hand delivered or processor delivered, that we're gonna sue.
and what I guess the thing that maybe we need to ask them to do, particularly because they're dealing with they're dealing with back taxes that haven't been paid, but some of those taxes will not actually be owed in the amount which they're seeking, is to ask them to refund the property owners based upon the date of the of Wardwell going out of existence.
And I get all that because at some point, because there's questions that they're starting to come. People
Oh,
know
I-
about the issue.
Yeah.
I think they would like to know we're working hard on their behalf. And I honestly, I don't think we're gonna get their attention until
Well, we would
in the court
actually,
action.
it's kind of novel is what the legal action would be is a petition for a writ of mandamus. It's what it is, which is figure it out and get it done.
Mhm.
But that's what the legal action is.
That's about all you can do with it. Cause you can hound them to death and they're just gonna sit on their haunches until,
One other thing that's a little peculiar, and I think I mentioned this last time, is the date that the county recognized the dissolution was surprisingly late.
yeah.
Because Wardwell had done everything
And
necessary.
honestly, I would, if we go to a legal action, I would challenge their recognition of it. Cause they were notified. I think
They
it should go back to their notification
Yeah.
date, not when they recognized it, because it could be alluded to, they benefited by allowing that date to,
And it came months after Wardwell actually had
I
ceased.
think we can convince a judge it's the date
They were very
they were
late.
notified.
They were very late to recognize it. And I don't know what the reason for that is, other than it seems like the county's got a pretty bad backlog of stuff right now and did then. Because I think they recognized it in November, which is way after Wardwell actually had basically stepped down, which I want to say is in August, but I
And
could.
we directly notified them.
No, Wardwell did everything correct. Bar none did as well. And so it was there for weeks before that occurred.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I could almost see in a litigation aspect that once we're already complaining that you won't listen to us, I'm sure you've documented your contacts with them, getting no action. And then we plea with the judge that, look, and the county drug their feet. I think, you should consider date of notification, not their date of finally accepting it.
So I would need some authorization to,
Let's hold off on that. Go with
Can we, would it help if any of the public reached out to, is there an office that they can call and continually ask to move this along? And I'm not saying in order to have that resolve this,
it's controlled by the treasurer's office.
because what I'm almost wondering is if to suffice like as a public person, not as a council member, the people that are asking the questions and the people who want to let them know we're working on it, can we put out a small statement and saying we're working to rectify this problem. In the meantime, to help us, you can contact the Natrona County Treasurer's Office and keep inquiring about
I
this.
think it does help
Or not.
but because of the way that they look at properties.
Hmm.
I think it does help for the county to know which properties are impacted. Because it's difficult for us to know. I mean, it's a whole host of property numbers.
Right.
I mean, it should be all of those properties south of Bar None that were within the Wardwell district, which is a lot of properties. And it would be helpful. I suspect that not all of those people even realize that's occurred. Our demand needs to be global. I mean, it needs to include that entire area, which they should be able to assess quite easily. I mean, they know what's in Bar None and what's not. So it should be pretty easy to do.
Well, just so that they know we're working on it and just so that there's a little bit of context to what's going on, or even if we had some short little snippet written up that we could put on the back of the newsletter or something so that,
Well, I'm thinking about it,
No,
includes
'cause-
Bar None as well, because
they keep,
assessed on it. So it's
You know.
everything. Yeah.
I'm not the lawyer to be able to give them a lot of update on the complexities of that.
So my opinion on that, it's been tried
Okay.
with the county assessor's office. I don't know if you remember the last assessor. He got hit with 5,000
Mhm.
protests. You know how much that budged him? Not an inch. But he did finally lose his seat, thank goodness, but my
I say we still work on it, but it would make people feel better to know that I don't know.
I think the key probably, I mean, it's kind of unfortunate timing for everything that was going on down there. But they're aware of the situation. They're dealing with a peculiar situation of their own because of the way they collect those. Apparently, I was told that they actually had distributed funds for a long time from work.
Well, they started holding it when we began the dissolution process.
just proves their acknowledgement.
Well, it would have been nice if they'd held it and then calculated out the date of dissolution. But what I think we probably, at this stage, I mean, I will include their attorney, but I think what we need to do is probably demand that they account for it so that we can try and get them straightening it out. And then, of course, you have people who have actually paid those taxes and got assessed more than they should have, and they're owed a refund.
And it's gonna
It's a
happen.
mess,
If this goes further, we're all gonna get collected on again.
Well, and on top of it, we don't want to be the recipients of the distribution in case we have to be the party refunding, because ultimately that would be the case.
You have to bring on another person. Deal with
I think let's try this. I'm gonna call him down there personally. I want you to touch base with him again, send him a strongly worded letter. I'm gonna call him personally. And then if they still don't budge by the next council meeting, we're gonna probably go your route.
Give me a call before you call them, because it's actually down at the treasurer's, it's one single individual who is dealing with this problem. So, and I can't remember that person's the poor person. So I think I have it written down, and that's the person you want to talk to, because they won't have to get up to speed. They know what the topic is.
Okay. Yep, I'll get with you tomorrow about that, and I'm gonna call him tomorrow. And if we don't have this resolved, or not resolved, but if at a minimum, we need to stop being charged. And then they can figure out the rest of the paperwork along the way.
Well, I mean, they should have stopped assessing it as of the current tax year. That should be the case.
If I remember,
Should.
I think Aaliyah filed some paperwork.
Oh, yeah. No, so the problem is, for this tax year, it shouldn't be happening. Maybe it is, but it shouldn't be. The big problem is for the last tax year. And that problem is kind of two-part. One part is, like Dan mentioned, it got filed. And then there was weeks that went by before the county recognized that Wardwell had ceased operations. Well, by that time, we were already running the system. And so it goes out of business, what I want to say mid-year, but that would be optimistic because it actually shows up down at the county, I think in November, which is surprisingly late. But still you have, some period of time in there
Right.
where people's taxes are being assessed and they should not be getting charged those mills. Then the added part, even on top of that, is they're still taking in collections for that tax year. They're late, but they do that right up into the tax sale date. They put a notice out, you're
You can
probably
buy the taxes.
right. Well, some people are in that group. I mean, they always are.
And if they assess this year for some reason,
Oh,
that's almost
that's way
criminal.
off.
That's
Now,
criminal,
they shouldn't be doing that. They know that, which doesn't mean that's not happening.
right?
But they do know that Wardwell's. So the way that is gone. So the way I understand it right now, the problem is for last year. And the problem really is for the way they look at it is for the last 6 weeks of the year, because that on their record is when Wardwell ceased to exist. It's not the way we look at it, but it's the way that they look at it.
Be further back though.
My fear is we're going to get into a conspiracy out there that we're dragging our feet on purpose because we want the money.
That's why we need to
It's good work.
put some sort of little public notice out that we are actively trying to fight this.
Okay.
Okay.
The kind of frustrating thing is, and I have August in mind, and my date may be wrong. I mean, you might remember it better than me, that Aaliyah got everything filed fairly early.
Yeah,
And-
August was the month that we finally got those last papers dealt with.
Right, so it's surprising that it's November at the county. It took a long time to work through the county.
Because there was the back and forth between regional and getting those, and that was even August, if I remember, July.
Yeah, and I don't
Those
think
last
that should
documents.
have impacted it.
It's in about a snail's
So I don't think that
But I was-
held everything up.
If I remember, my last
one that's everybody.
meeting was July or August.
Right, it
Once
was.
that document was signed, I was out of there.
And, we went through the state, or rather Wardwell went through the state.
So the more you do,
So really,
it
in
is.
my view, the point at which the AG's office said this is okay should be an absolute last date. I don't know why the county's action was after that, because that's a long time after it.
I mean, it could be speculated real easily why, but I think those harder, I think if it ever went to litigation, I think a reasonable judge would see those dates like the rest of
And
us.
we can always demand on behalf of the system, Bar Nuns residents and the system's customers, that the earlier date be recognized. I mean, maybe they won't do it, but they at least have to do it as of the November date.
I'll contact him tomorrow, and then I would like it if you also would contact them again, and let's just keep following up and harassing them, and let's to make some sort of public announcement, because I know it's been on at least some people's minds. Let's post on Facebook about the current status of it and how we're working on it. And I'm gonna find out exactly what the current status is, because if they're still charging us and they said they weren't going to, then
Yeah, they shouldn't be doing
they
that.
shouldn't be. But it is what it is, right? So anyway, I think that's a game plan going forward. Hopefully we don't have to go the nuclear route.
Oh, yeah.
I'd rather avoid that, because that just creates bad blood, and then any future endeavors that we want to have with them are going to be
Mhm.
even worse. So
Maybe from there, we should be talking to the county commissioners.
yeah, that's a good idea. I'll reach out.
They all have a
I'll
relationship with
I'll
them.
reach out to Dave North tomorrow too and talk to him about it. So, anyway, any other questions for Pat? Nope. Okay. Mr. Cavalier, you have the floor, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, you have my report. I'll try to quickly go through the bullet items. As a few people are aware, the Antelope Park Improvements Project is on hold until the first week of June. Just found that information out yesterday. Reached out to the contractor today to see if there's a way that we can get bumped up their schedule. rainy weather and project delays have delayed them. That's really the only explanation that I've gotten. So when I hear back from them, I will update council, but that's the update that I have there. I was not expecting to get that update yesterday. I was expecting this week to be the week. So that kind of sent us on a different path. So
Are we supposed to open the splash pad?
this weekend
So nothing's torn up around the splash pad yet, right?
there is, yes,
We can't open the splash pad yet.
you could. I mean, there's still access to the splash pad.
That's what I was asking. If
Yeah, the splash
It
pad.
has a moat.
Right.
Put some alligators in there.
Yeah, there's about from the restrooms, there's the restroom access basically where there's concrete up to the splash pad.
we've removed all the grass and
The grass around there has been removed.
yeah, let's not do
So,
that.
Do we have a contract with the?
Get mud
and that's what
done
we
with.
signed a contract and I just didn't have an opportunity to get it pulled up to see if there was a date included in that. In our conversations, they assured us that they would have it open by Memorial Day. I just don't know that it made it into the actual contract. And so I have some time now, potentially, that I'm going
Oh,
to dig
should
that.
we, if they're not there by that date, should we send them a notice to cure?
I,
Of course, then who do you find?
right. I mean, right now we have an open project that we need to get fixed. And so I don't want to say we're at the mercy of the contractor. I will dig that up here.
Is this something, I mean, I'm not throwing Dustin out here to,
It's Dustin's fault.
it is Dustin's fault. It literally is.
Dustin's fault.
Dustin,
Try throwing you
Dustin,
under the bus.
you're a director now. This is your fault. All right. This is how leadership works. All right?
I have to talk to Ray every week.
I messing with you, man. I totally messing with you.
Told me that Memorial
I'm
Day,
just kidding.
it would be ready.
Is this something
Great.
that our maintenance crew can do?
No.
No? Okay.
No, so right now, they have to get their piece of equipment in. And I've never had a successful playground installation without a certified installer. I've had a playground installation without a certified installer that was subsequently installed by a certified installer. So I can tell you that it can be done, and they're not really difficult, but oftentimes when you get volunteers for things like that, it's not the right kind of volunteers.
Okay.
It's well-meaning people that don't have the background to install stuff like that.
Fair enough.
And you're talking about having little kids playing on this. It's not something you want to leave up to,
I was
Ray,
speaking specifically about the splash pad.
the splash pad operates. You can turn
But it'll get mud and everything in it if we do it right now.
if the kids jump into the mud. I mean,
They were jumping in the muds over the weekend.
right.
I'm gonna put $1 on it.
Mud everywhere.
Kids don't like mud.
No, four kids. It was very clean and they're all in it.
We're talking
Um,
2 weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks
Correct.
extension, right?
Potentially.
If weather's nice between now.
And I reached out to him this afternoon to push him a little bit to say, hey, we promised this by Memorial Day. And he said, I will talk to my crews and I will get back to you.
You
So
know,
I'm hoping that we can jump over another project for the install.
just have the kids write some letters. Email them over.
Emotional blackmail.
Yes, there you go. That's the way to do it.
So
Okay, so going forward, couple of things. Would it be a good idea to put some penalties into our contracts when people don't meet the deadlines?
we typically have liquidated damages for
Okay,
failure to meet substantial completion.
so we just need to see if we did that on this one.
Yes. And when I have a moment, I'll get the contract pulled up and I'll confer with my
Esteemed associate.
competition.
Yeah, he is a competition, right?
It's like they could be father and son, right?
He doesn't enter that. He doesn't have that.
The second question is I know that finding another contractor is maybe a tall order. Is it worth looking into it just to see if maybe we can last minute?
I think Mr. Sabrowski can talk more to
Limited.
this, but if you have a contractor that has the time right now, there's probably a reason why in the end of May, they're not working.
All right, fair enough.
And this is a specialty trade or specialty contractor.
Yeah.
Not,
They receive some payment.
Certified, right?
Um,
For the,
Yeah.
I don't think we've paid them.
haven't seen them on the checklist.
All right.
Is there retention on this then until we sign off on it or I guess
We typically,
it happens so quickly that
we,
we'll know it's done and just pay them.
right, they anticipate being here for 5 days.
Oh.
So, I mean, from the time they hit the ground until the project's completely done and open, they're talking
You'll
5
inspect
days. Right.
Sign off.
So we had our end of the bargain done in March. And they were notified as soon as council selected the stuff. So I don't
They're happy about it.
feel real bad for them.
Okay.
The
The equipment's been in our yard for the last 3 weeks. It arrived 3 weeks ago.
What we
Equipment-
don't have is the fall protection. So we don't have the turf material and the styrofoam padding that's the stuff that goes around the splash
Are
pad.
they installing that too?
Yeah, they're doing everything. So that's,
Is that a different supplier then from the equipment?
no, that they supplied everything for the
We have
project.
to wait until they're waived.
So,
Are we expecting that stuff until they start?
so they have to get the playground equipment installed first
Oh, and then,
because then they cut it to fit around
Oh.
because it is the fall protection for the I just drew a blank, the stuff, the playground equipment,
Yeah.
you know, the stuff.
that's 2 bars.
Guys, yeah. So, but again, I'm gonna press on him pretty hard tomorrow.
Okay.
And see if we can hop over somebody else
Okay.
and
You know, if you do get some positive news, we could use it out on the Facebook page.
Yeah, there's a lot of happy.
I'm noticing.
I do have one positive thing. You own Salt Creek Highway from West Winds to Antelope.
Here we go.
Oh,
You already
Lord.
do.
You can maintain.
That was easy.
That was very easy.
We didn't have to sign anything.
No.
Where's your money
Did-
tonight?
That's right.
They painted it. Did you see that? They striped Salt Creek.
When they did the realignment of Salt Creek Highway, they actually purchased the land in the town of Barnun's name. But no one ever told the town. So they,
I didn't even know you could do that.
God knows.
Why, is somebody buying a house or you
Yeah.
buying?
and this was, so as you can all imagine, there was a lot of changing of the guard. There was a new district engineer that started shortly after the project. There was new town engineer. There was a lot of new people happening. So we didn't come on until after the interchange was done and the road was aligned. They didn't turn the section from Antelope to McMurray over until 2021.
Yeah.
That's right. Somewhere in there. The intent was that it was going to get turned over in 2017 when they finished the project. But I don't know that it really mattered because they built essentially a new road. The new road, as we know in the bog, it's not really a new road, but from McMurray North, they essentially built a brand new road. And so it was just kind of left out there. So when I reached out to YDOT, the current district engineer was the construction engineer at the time. And he said, well, I thought that we did that and I'm going to have to get back to you. And so we had a couple back and forth and he sent me the documentation that they purchased that property in the name of the town. So,
I didn't know you'd do that.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Okay.
so
Cool.
yeah,
So we own it already.
proud new old owners of Highway. Congratulations.
Fantastic. I feel like a dad again.
It's a boy.
It's a boy.
Girl, I don't,
We've been plowing that anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that was one of the reasons why I reached out to Ray about it is because we've already been plowing it. And, you know, with the possibility of some infrastructure going in there and the, you know, actual development, we don't want to have to go through the hassle of having to deal with YDOT and go through their stuff and ours.
Just to get an approach off of YDOT. And if, yeah, that would have been.
It's just easier just if we own it because it's in the town boundaries anyway. We should. So problem solved. Thank you, Ray. That is
do anything.
mazel tov.
Already solved itself.
That's the new section of Salt Creek, in case anybody's wondering.
It's really
Or sec-
from West Winds all the way down to Antelope. And that from McMurray to Antelope was turned over to the town, like we said, in 2021. After originally the intent was being with the completion of the project, the town would own from Antelope to West Winds. And now it's official. Well, it was, yep, it is done.
That was fun.
Cool.
Yes. So back to the bad news.
Okay, cool.
All right. It's not really bad news. It is what we thought it was going to be. We did receive the geotechnical recommendations for McMurray, and as we suspected, McMurray is not in great shape.
Right.
So it is really what we thought it was going to be. Basically the geotech divided the road into two sides, east of the raised crosswalk and west of the raised west of the raised crosswalk.
There you go.
Tongue twister.
Say it 3 times fast.
I can't. So everything west of the crosswalk, they said is in fair condition. On a scale of 1 to 10, they gave it a 5. Everything east of the crosswalk, they said poor to fair, 3 to 5. So what we can do is do a simple overlay, and that will buy us 5 to 10 years. What we've been tossing around in our office, and I have yet to really talk too much with Dustin about, and we've discussed it briefly, is just doing a mill and overlay or even a full depth replacement on the drive lanes and nothing on the shoulders, because we have a really wide road right there. We've got a 54-foot wide road and the drive lanes are about 24 feet. So we could potentially look at doing that. And in the end, the driving surface that people use ends up being brand new. We cut the price in half, essentially, or less than half.
Wait, to do a full depth
Replacement, just
just for that is cheaper than to do
a full mill and overlay,
really
because you're talking from 54 feet down to 24 feet wide.
old.
And you get a brand new road essentially. Now the question for council is going to be, what do you want the extent, how much do you want the project to cost? And that's, I mean, we get to do as little as you want it to be.
So I think because this actually leads into our next budget, because we'll be doing budget again next week. So I think this is probably what we need to put at the front load. My gosh, I'm struggling with words tonight too.
It's the ties.
It is the ties.
Loosen them a little bit.
Let's front load that, and we'll talk about it our next our next work session
Okay.
Tuesday.
So what I'll come up with some extents essentially that, if council says they want to spend X number of dollars, this is what we can get with it. Or if they want to, Y number of dollars, this is where it can go, and somewhere in between. So I have that essentially ready to go. So that, again, that's not necessarily bad news. It is what we thought it was. Let's see. So we did Antelope Improvements Project. We had talked about the purpose of the Water Development Commission. I could go for an hour and a half talking about what the WWDC does, what their purpose is. I find it very fascinating. It's one of those things that I enjoy nerding out on. I don't know if you want to talk about that at this council meeting. I can give you a 50,000-foot view.
Give me the 50,000-foot view. Maybe we can discuss it in our work session in depth.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to start this very broad and going to try to narrow it down. So we get our water from the North Platte River. Every drop of water in the North Platte River is owned by somebody in Wyoming or Nebraska. For 150 plus years, Wyoming and Nebraska have been fighting over the water in the North Platte River. In 1945, roughly, the U.S. Supreme Court declared that Wyoming gets 25% of the water in the North Platte River and Nebraska gets the other 75%. So the Wyoming Water Development Commission was created in the 1970s to help Wyoming maximize its usage of the 25%, because we don't get to just keep it. We don't have a bunch of jugs that we get to hold at the state line. Anything that we don't use goes to Nebraska, and never to be seen again, essentially.
So how much are we using currently?
The river is over appropriated.
Yes.
What does that mean? Talk to me like I'm
There's
scared.
more water rights appropriated than there is water, because actually The other part of it is that when the original appropriation was done, it was done in a series of extremely wet years. And so they gave way more water than there is.
So we're using, yes, essentially we're using over 25%.
Cool.
And WWDC, it's the Wyoming Water Development Commission, which is a Wyoming state government agency whose lot in life is maximizing the waters of the state of Wyoming. In our case, they're maximizing the waters of the North Platte River. They provide funding for a litany of things, but mostly it's things that help irrigators, so ranchers and farmers and municipalities use all of the water that they can. So the background on that is that WWDC provides grant funding for water transmission main extension projects. So in talking about the potential for, since I've been town engineer in 2017, we've talked about how we can get utilities up to the interchange at West Winds. That's since day one, essentially, we've had that conversation, and what it has amounted to is that no one that wants to build at the interchange or anywhere on West Winds is going to foot the bill for millions of dollars of infrastructure that it would need to take utilities up Salt Creek Highway. Now, this is absent of any other conversation. This is just developing the land from the end of the water line, essentially at McMurray, up to West Winds and over to the east side of West Winds. Wyoming Water Development Commission exists to they provided a study just last year. Inberg Miller provided what's known as a level 1 study, which is essentially a look at the entire Wardwell water and sewer system. I'm sorry, Wardwell water system. They don't do sewer. So they looked at the entire system, and Inberg Miller gave recommendations on improvements to that system. That's called a level 1 study. From there, WWDC has a level 2, basically feasibility studies to determine if projects can be built and if they're a beneficial use of the waters of the state. From the level 2 study, they can go to a level 3 construction grant, which is 67% of the construction cost of the project. The WWDC will grant to municipalities, irrigation districts, things like that. Then the owner is essentially left with 33% to fund themselves. CEPI has done this a number of times for the city of Casper, for Glen Rock, Douglas, Wheatland, a number of municipalities. It's not a very difficult process because they want to maximize the use of the waters of the state. So the reason I brought that up is the potential for development to happen if we can make some expansions to the utility system. We can do it through potentially state government grants. So that is the very, very quick flyby 50,000 foot view of what the WWDC is, why they exist, and how they could potentially benefit the town of Bar None. So if you look at the town of Bar None's water system, we don't have very many, I should say Wardwell, we don't have very many water transmission mains. The transmission mains are all essentially owned by Regional Water. There's a few that you could count in the southern section of the district that would count as transmission mains, but essentially we have a lot of distribution mains. But if we were to extend utilities up Salt Creek Highway, you could absolutely count that as transmission lines. And that would open you up to a 67% grant from WWDC.
Okay.
So that is it in a nutshell.
Interesting.
Ray, those other communities, were those properties that benefited, were those municipal properties or were they privately?
Almost a mixture of both, but it was by and large private property.
And if that was a transmission line going up there, then that private property up there, when it was time to fully develop, they would have to do, what did you call them, production lines or not distribution lines off that transmission line, or would that transmission line be a quasi distribution line too?
It depends on what sort of development happened. If someone wanted to put in, I'm just spitballing here, but if somebody wanted to put in 150 homes, they would have to put in a distribution line to feed those homes. If you had, if you know,
Never did.
gas truck and equipment wanted to come up there and build a new building up there, you could tap into the transmission line
And
and
those taps would be what do we call it? A service, development
have-
service charge.
correct. And depending on how, typically what municipalities, not typically, but I've seen quite a few times a municipality put a recapture on utility.
That's where I was going next.
Yes. So essentially you would get the system investment charge as part of the tap fee, and you could get a recapture fee, which is, I mean, the ones that I've worked on they're basically based on the frontage of the property that goes to the utility. So let's say that the line is 1,000 feet and you have 100 foot of property fronting that utility, you're essentially responsible for 10% of the utility cost. And Pat's probably cringing at the things that I'm saying, but I mean, that's the dumb engineer's view of how that goes is, you know, if somebody owns 100% of the property and they want to tap into, or 100% of the footage, the land frontage to the utility, then the system investment charge would potentially be 100% of the utility installation. So, but generally speaking, that landowner would want to subdivide their land and sell it off in lots because you just make more money.
Right.
So,
And I get, and that's, you know, with the Radiant project, and I get, we're talking, it's kind of separate, but it's going up into that direction
right.
where they can take it from there with their WBC grant if they can get that. But that's the non-palatable part.
Right.
With, you know, it's kind of mixed on the nuclear storage, but then the taxpayer money going to develop the private land, you're not getting any interest in it.
Right.
So this makes it look different for sure.
And it's something the town is, I've been engineer for 8 years and
But then you're recouping the money
right.
back to the taxpayer.
You're expanding your tax base, you're just expanding developable land. Because right now, there's very little developable land within the town of Bar None. Really within Wardwell, it's pretty limited as well. So this is something that we've, as a council and as your engineer, we toy with this idea every 2 to 3 years. We look at this, and I use the Dairy Queen example because, you know, Schoolcraft's not here, but Dairy Queen is not going to spend $3 million to bring water up to West Winds Interchange.
Right.
And, you know, Radiant right now, if they wanted to come in or whoever wanted to develop north of West Winds, they can tap, there's a water line right there that they could tap into. And there's zero benefit to the town of Bar None because they can run a service line up there and serve their building, and that there's zero benefit. Like, we get to sell them water, but you know, then we have to pay for more water. It makes him do more work. So the potential getting a grant like this would open up developable land where people want to develop. As I get calls a few times a year about what it would take to get utilities up there from you know,
This is
wherever.
this is strictly infrastructure money, water main money from what'd you say,
Wyoming Water Development Commission,
where did they get the money? Just from the state?
state legislature, and it's
Yeah.
my understanding that the legislature their funding has stayed the same for decades. And maybe it's not
That
decades.
agency.
Correct.
It's an agency,
Yes.
not an association.
No, it's made up of members of the state legislature, and then there's commissioners assigned from various regions throughout the state. So that's their board they help craft the water omnibus bill that then goes to the state for approval every.
You know if this is tied to our state constitution in any way, or is it just state statutes?
It's just state statutes. It's statutes.
I think that's all I have.
It's a good 50,000 foot view. I feel like we landed the plane too.
If we wanted to go further, like I said, I've I've got a lot.
We can keep rolling on. Like I said, if we want to, we can, at the budget session, we can get into the gritty details of it and see where, kind of where we want to go with it from there.
We'll come back.
Sounds good.
So,
Salt Creek.
we already did Salt Creek.
I jumped on it now. News first.
Yeah, but weren't they gonna do engineering?
Yes,
That's not happening yet.
that'll happen next fiscal year. That's part of the Casper MPO's budget for fiscal year 26. So I don't know at what point they plan on releasing that. I'll get that at our next MPO meeting.
We're gonna wait for that till we talk about maybe trying to do like concrete along.
Yes.
Okay.
You.
Thank you, Ray.
That's all I have.
Thanks, man. You took more time than Pat.
I know
That much.
for now.
Sonny's not here. We have his report. We can read it if we want to, or if we need to. And, it's Dustin, you have the floor, sir.
Mayor, council, you have my report. There in front of you. I'll entertain any questions. I have a couple things to add that's not in that report. The first one is good news. And it kind of ties in the conversation. November 5th of 2024, the Natrona County Commission passed a resolution acknowledging the dissolution of Wardwell. I was able to use that to notify the EPA and change the name of the water system to Town of Barnum. So
Right on.
public water system number 5600067 is now named Town of Barnum and not Wardwell Water
Excellent.
in the EPA's database.
That actually leads into a point I wanted to make. Can we go down to the old Wardwell building and take down all the signs?
Yes, sir. I was thinking of that the other day. So we need to paint over that. We need to paint over that on
Right on.
the building. So I still have
Taking
to,
down the Iron Curtain.
yes, sir. I have to notify Energy Labs and get them to change our account. Yeah, and that's just that's an administrative thing. So the bacterial sample reports are still showing Wardwell Water and Sewer, but that's an Energy Labs thing, and I have to find the right person who will take the time and change the name in their database, but we'll get that done.
Right on.
And then the other thing that's not in my report regarding the splash pad, and it was just an idea I had just now during the conversation of the mud. I don't know if it would be feasible or desirable to the section that surrounds the splash pad, if we just hired a concrete contractor to come in and pour more concrete and extend it rather than the fall protection. You could probably get a concrete contractor in here in the next week or two, but I don't know. It's just this,
Instead of turf and the,
instead of the turf around the splash pad. So it's just an idea I just had. I thought I'd throw it out there.
Ray, have we already paid for the turf?
Consideration.
I'm sure that they have it here.
You want,
I don't know where their crews came from, but I'm sure that they brought their stuff with them.
Okay.
So, I mean,
water.
definitely look at it.
Probably.
We could also put up snow fence around the splash pad to direct kids just to the entrance by the restroom. I mean,
Yeah, the wind blows the fence down every
Right.
night.
It'd be hot.
so that'd be the tough part.
And kids rip it down.
I think we could wait a cut. That's a great idea, but
So,
I think waiting a couple weeks, I would be.
yeah, let's just wait.
It was just
So
a,
let's do this. Is it possible that, so since we're opening late, can we stay open late at the end of the season? Couple of weeks to extend
if
it?
you want to, sir. I mean, the only thing that would prohibit that is freezing weather. That would freeze and break.
We usually close it in September, right?
It's
Which,
usually Labor Day. Labor Day is the closing weekend typically.
weather-wise.
So it all depends, on the weather for.
I think we could do a couple extra weeks at the end of the year and leave it open. I mean, I don't know how many people are gonna visit it, but,
Right.
I mean, at least try to compensate a little bit because I know that usually this is when we open it, so.
Well, and I mean, we could put out look, sorry for the delay. These are circumstances, but you're gonna be very impressed with the new equipment. Just bear with us, patience. They will like the new equipment.
It's government.
Dustin can give out popsicles or something when it finally opens.
It's Virginia's.
blame it on
As
Mayor,
part of your on.
Get like the shaved ice truck to come out on
blame it
our,
on Mayor
For it.
Booker, or however you word
Hey,
it.
just keep it all on me. I don't care. That's fine.
Put his number out there.
Everything's, yeah, put my personal number out there if you could, please. Okay. Yeah, Ray, is it worth it looking in the concrete now?
Concrete would be very expensive
Okay.
to do
We'll
an
just-
area that size.
Just tonight.
Yeah.
We'll just wait then.
Thinking outside the box. We left it.
I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you thinking like that.
Thinking of-
Any other questions for Dustin?
thank
Nope.
you.
No.
Thank you.
All right.
It's not here, she's.
I see that.
What does her report say?
Garage sale, it's June 7th.
She's gonna finalize the map by June 2nd. The community members can post and share the link on the map.
Working on July 4th celebration parade. The church is doing all that stuff.
Very back, very last page.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
And then, yeah, so she's working on the
Um,
parade route and everything like that.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool. Well, that's easy enough.
Yep.
All right. Petitions and public comment before anyone stands up. Is, everyone here, by show of hands, how many people are planning on having a public comment? So I've got one, two-ish, one-ish, one and a half-ish, maybe? Any others?
Depends on how heated.
Okay, so.
One will get another one coming.
Just in case we have a lot of people, I would ask that you would limit your public comments to 5 minutes.
Do you want me to?
Well, if we need to.
Okay.
But I ask that you keep your public comments limited in case other people want to get up and state their case. And so that everyone has time to get up and speak. So with that being said, petitions and public comments are open. Please approach the podium, state your name and where you live and what you're here for.
I'll get out of the way real quick. My name is Ken Hume. I am the Emergency Operations Center guy for the town. I live on Zuni Trail if anybody cares. We have run up, we being me, has run up against a brick wall down in Cheyenne. I've been looking for ways to apply for grants. I'm even trying to learn how to write grant requests myself. The problem we've had is that with federal squeeze going on and with the property tax cut, all the Wyoming grants for emergency operations are on hold. One of the ones I investigated required that we have a police department anyway. One, I think we're able for, or we're eligible for. The other one is kind of questionable. I haven't heard anything definite back. But for right now, EOC grants were on hold.
Could Sonny help him?
Have you reached out to Sonny at all?
I have not.
Said he's
Maybe try linking up with him. If they're all on hold, I don't know what he can do, but
Yeah, well, he was talking about some grants for the fire department, and he sounded like they were coming directly from fire organizations.
right.
And
with his previous history, he may have just some other ideas of
Yeah.
other avenues. He said he's really good at grants.
yeah, and obviously I'm not, but
None of us really.
anyway, that's kind of where I am. One guy I was talking to down or emailing down in Cheyenne basically said, we're shut down. And if you go look at the grants websites, they talk about 2024 or, 2022, 23 and 24 grants. It's not a word about 25s. So as far as the EOC goes, I would also ask you guys to consider passing a resolution, which Mayor Boyer mentioned at the last meeting I was at. So we can get something officially on the books for an EOC, which the one grant that we might still be eligible for, if they open it back up, we would be eligible for it.
Okay.
So something to think about.
Yeah, we need to do that. So you want to write a resolution? I'm just kidding, man.
Yeah.
I'll
wanna
take the one where I got appointed and change some words.
You want to link up with Pat and we can get a resolution for the next meeting
Okay,
and, we can do that.
is that it?
This is public comment, so you got the floor, sir.
That's all I got.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you,
Thanks,
Ken. Any other petitions or public comment? Everyone's quiet tonight. Oh. Evening.
Evening. Rosemary's Phone. Did you guys watch any of that?
I haven't had time. Nope. I haven't. Yeah, I don't, I don't know where I'm gonna find time. Because I was, like, I'm just being honest with you here, like, in between everything I got going on, I don't know when I'd fit it in. Like, I drive a lot, so I can't really watch it when I'm driving. That would be kind of bad, right? So it's just, I haven't had time to say again. Yeah, if I had the money.
Are you talking
had the
about the
money.
committee hearings from last year?
Yes.
Can you summarize what it is you want us to see in those?
Speak up. There's some of the information.
No, but I mean, what is it you're trying to get across to us and the public that you see in those meetings that should set up a red flag for us? Besides the personalities, because we know there's nefarious characters down there in Cheyenne. There's one sitting here.
Guilty. I'll summarize. Get back to you. And nobody was able to make it to Buffalo.
No, I was working, so I besides this,
A lot of people from Buffalo that made it to that meeting. That was a pretty small meeting.
besides this, I have a full-time job, so there was no way I was gonna be able to make it. I'd have to literally just cut out of work to go, and I can't do that. I already miss multiple hours of work a week just to do other meetings. And so there was no way, because I wanted to. That's the best I can give you on that one. But is there a certain section that you want us to watch? That because I can't watch all the committee meetings. There's no way I can fit all that in. So is there like maybe like a 10 or maybe like a 30-minute section that I can watch that's going to give me the information? Is there a possibility of that?
Oh, it's one of those meetings where you just gotta watch everything, but.
Okay.
That's putting together.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
Yes.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna ask you if you wouldn't mind giving me, I was not able to obviously drive to Buffalo or go to that. What was the context of the meeting?
Legislative meeting or
Another one in Buffalo.
it was to talk about nuclear and then,
Right.
um,
What was your takeaway from it?
well, the hands raised in the room. One hand raised in favor and everybody else is against it.
But it also sounded like a lot of the discussion was on the Kimmer stuff.
There was both.
Was the discussion more on power plants?
The Kimmer, yeah.
It was a combination of
Okay.
all and the fact of new proposal coming in.
That's all I was asking.
And that's gonna be the legislative meetings. 21st, what time? Thursday morning at 8:35.
We all agree the CO2 capture is a hoax,
That's pipelines.
right? Which is a hoax.
They're gonna be discussing that, so. So.
Yes.
Thursday at 8.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other petitions or public comment? Nope. Sir.
Brave.
Mayor, quick comment on the Buffalo meeting, if I can, since it was brought up.
Yeah, sure.
Matt Wilson, Director of Operations at Radiant. One of the concerns I've heard about Radiant in this community is that Radiant has not been transparent about what we're trying to accomplish, what our operations look like. I'll use this as time to share. We are having a town hall, 6 p.m. At this facility on Thursday. Topics on spent fuel, a lot of conversation and questions on spent fuel, and we want to address it. The town hall in Buffalo, Radiant was a topic. Radiant was not invited. 2 hours away from a community that we are trying to site in. We're trying to be transparent here, and I heard a lot of misinformation. I was not there. My flight was delayed. I heard last minute about the meeting. I live streamed it, but we are trying to do what we can here to share transparent information. It is challenging when we hear of other folks that are addressing what they think are the things that Radiant is doing and not allowing Radiant to address it themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and the council, Bill Holloman, House District 58. What happened in Buffalo? It was a good discussion. Radiant was not there, and I don't think they were invited, but I know that Mr. Wilson called me and told me that his flight was delayed. So I'm going to stand up for him and say, yes, he was coming.
Was you trying to get there at the last minute? Is
What's
that,
that?
were you trying to get there at the last minute, man?
Yeah, it was a computer error in your plane.
Well, I booked the flight last minute and then, yeah, the flight was.
Yeah, but anyway, Radiant has been trying to be extremely present at everything, and they know that I have come out against this proposal. And it's mainly because I do not believe the state of Wyoming should be giving tax dollars to this. It takes 7,200 hardworking coal miners, oil people, everything to make up for the 25 million that we're to give to Radiant, not to give to Radiant, but to benefit Radiant. And that's one of my biggest pushes right now. I have done a poll in the city of Bar None. The folks are extremely against it.
I never received that poll, by the way.
I didn't fill it out. Is there a way to filtering out my?
Has it been published?
It went out to 1,800 Republican voters.
That's why,
I'm a Republican voter.
but that's why I didn't get it.
Yeah, it went out,
It's not like-
and this poll was done by some Rory McShane out of Texas, who is also Harriet Hageman's pollsters. So it is a very reliable,
Will you be getting that to the town clerk so she can publish it?
the poll, not at this point. So we're still going over it. I can tell you that folks are very, very concerned. And then when we come down
Are
to
they concerned or are they for or against it?
very, very concerned. Then when we come down to spending, I don't know what the figures are today. I hear 25 million, then I hear 8 million. And I hear that the number keeps coming down because Advanced Casper has got to come up with 10%. So the number keeps coming down because they could not come up with 2.5 million. Now they can't come up with 800,000, which is 10% of 8 million. So I
When you first came to the mic, you said you're against it because of taxpayer money going into it. If they decide to go it alone without the taxpayer money, are you still against it?
I am because of what the people of Bar None is telling me. I represent House District 58, which is Bar None, and the people of Bar None do not want to spent fuel.
So here's my thing. I was very involved in the gravel pit stuff. I went to all those meetings. Those town halls were packed and they had pitchforks. And we're still yet to see that.
Yes.
We're not getting, I don't know about you guys. I haven't gotten one phone call. I got one person today tell me they want it. I'm not getting bombarded. We're not getting packed in here. So whatever you're seeing, we're not seeing.
That's not what's happening to me. I've had several people tell me that if this comes in, and I do want to say the people who are calling me are the ones who are adamantly against it. If you're adamantly for it, you're not gonna call me. But if you're adamantly against it, these are the calls I'm getting. And it's people saying, I am going to leave bar none. I am, I'm selling. And you know what? That could happen very short term. I think that in a longer term, that will equal out and maybe even bring the house prices up. But in a short term, I want you guys to realize that bar none housing market could go to pieces in a short term. In a medium term, they're bouncing right back up. And in the high term, they could go way up.
In the previous report that was brought to us, the worst nuclear accident in America was 3 Mile Island. Their housing market crashed for 8 weeks and then rebounded.
That's what I'm saying.
Are you saying this brand new facility is going to rise to that level of crisis without even an accident?
I think so. Just from what I'm hearing from people. But I use this. God has a shelf life to everything. That's me, that's you. And I think this is totally safe for 200-300 years. Beyond that, I hope we have developed new technology to take care of it, and it could just go poof and be away, or it could go to the sun.
I mentioned
But
online,
that is an if, and I do not, everything in life is an if.
so I mentioned
And I
online today.
just don't want to dwell on these ifs.
Well, I mentioned online today, on a gentleman that was against it, adamantly against it. The only thing we can vote on is to offer some money into that grant. After that, it's only our opinion. There's nothing more we can vote on.
Okay,
So right now, we only have opinion. And if this room fills up like the gravel pit town halls, you may sway my opinion. But right now, we're not
Okay.
getting that.
7,200 hardworking oil people, coal miners, people who work at our pharmacies and our grocery stores. That's how many it takes to give Radiant, or not Radiant, to benefit Radiant, $25 million, 7,200. In 10 years, we're looking at having 250 people hired by Radiant. You got to take that 250. How many times does that go into 7,200? There is no tax money.
So here's the thing with that, though. We have no control over we have nothing to do with the 25 million.
I
We've
understand.
already discussed not to even put money into that, so I don't understand why it keeps getting brought up.
Mr. Clark, you do, because Advanced Casper has got to come up with 10% before they can submit it. And you're part of that.
We're not putting money
We're
into
not
that,
going
though.
to. So can I ask, let me, I remember the first town hall that they did before Advanced Casper was involved, right? This was just them coming to educate the public on nuclear microreactors. That's all it was about. It seemed positive, like there was a lot of people that their concerns were about the spent fuel. That's what their concerns were about, right? They addressed a lot of that and they're like, let's get more education involved with it. The second taxpayer money got involved in development, it went off the rails. Okay. Can I put you on the spot? Sorry, Peter. If you guys don't get this grant to expand the utilities and whatever, are you pulling the plug on Natrona County?
We said we're coming here regardless of.
Okay. So if you want to educate the public on nuclear microreactors and support of the public and support of bar none, is there a way to separate and completely abandon the grant money from Advanced Casper? Because I know Advanced Casper is going to the business council for that grant. Your name's not even on there. But you see what it's doing to your company. Is there a way that that can, because you're gonna lose you see where it's going.
And I've talked we talk weekly, couple times a week, some weeks. One thing I've always asked.
You're lucky.
Yeah. Please drop wanting money from the state because I think my last email said you're not getting it anyway. So, but anyway, the people are concerned. And me and Mr. Wilson had a bunch of dates lined up that we were going to have town halls together. And they were going to actually help me pay for them. I rented the hangar because I did not like when, we're having to have 2 rooms, the overflows. So I rented the hangar. I have banners in my pickup right now with these dates on. Then I get a text message, oh, those dates aren't going to work after we agreed on them. I get a text message, these dates aren't going to work. I text back, okay, I'm on my own.
I just feel like this.
I get another text that says, I will pay you. I don't want you to have, it did not say, I don't want you having your town halls. That's kind of the way I read into it.
Does it not surprise you, like what I said earlier, and maybe even Rose, if you'd like to respond to this? Listen, the level of outrage over that gravel pit blew my mind. And I thought, day one, the first time I ever talked to Matt, I said, be prepared because I seen how bad the public can go off the rails over a gravel pit. I can't imagine what they're going to do at this project. Where are those people?
It's coming.
So,
Right.
let's,
I've had numerous people.
Bill,
That's
you've had the floor for quite a while. We need to wrap it up.
Keep in mind here is we are not the permitting authority. We have no control
We only have
over the zoning on that. It's outside the town and Advanced Casper has some elected members on its board, none of whom are from Barnun.
Right.
And then we don't have any participation in Advanced Casper.
Really, all we have is an opinion.
That's it. And actually, under the law, that's all you have. The town can voice its opinion to the Board of County Commissioners. That's it.
I just feel like these are 2 totally separate issues. The funding for the project versus the actual project in and of itself. If something else was getting built on taxpayer money, people would be just as upset. And I think that's a separate topic from Radiant as a business itself with the spent fuel. I think those are 2 totally separate things that are driving what people are concerned about.
Any other petitions or public comment?
Yeah. Michael Newquist, town of Barnum, Castle Rock Street, actually. It's actually quite apparent. You guys are afraid of the people rising up about this nuclear deal because now we have peace officers in our chambers, which never had before. We don't need it. So let's mean that you guys are afraid of the people, which is good. Thank you.
Any other petitions or public comment? Okay, since we're gonna have a bunch of people, we're gonna limit this to 3 minutes. And Kelly, I want you to put a timer up, please. Not to offend anyone, but just we started out with 1.5 hands raised, and now we're on our 4th person, and we've got multiple people now wanting to speak. So we're gonna start limiting the time. So please, you have the floor.
And Nicholas Barnum. One thing I'd like to point out is there is a lot of banter that goes on Facebook, on our community pages. There's a group now that is against Radiant. You're a member on that group, Dan.
That doesn't mean I'm against it, but
I'm not saying that you're against it because it is.
because I was involved in that group. I was on their page
Right.
up there on the gravel pit until you say too many
You
things.
interrupted me
And then but that's what I can do as a city council member. We can interact.
I'm gonna time, and I would like to finish what I have to say, please, if I could. I don't want to be, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but you interrupted me.
Finish.
My point is that as long as the council continues to put this narrative out there that there's nothing we can do, that sends a feeling to the community that your hands are tied and it doesn't matter what you say. So a lot of people don't show up and they don't say anything because they don't feel like there's anything that they can do. And I really want to get that out and make a point of that. And, you know, just right now with you interrupting me when I come up here, I feel like you're very attacking and argumentative.
But you said I was in that group implying that I was
You know, that
against it.
you're aware of it. So when you're saying that people aren't showing up with their pitchforks, you're aware that there are people against this and there are people talking about it. And they're saying things. They're just not coming here. And I feel like the reason they're not coming here is because we continually hear this narrative that there's nothing can be done. So why would they come here? Why would they voice it?
So can I respond now?
Yes.
There's 50 members in that group. Do you know how many people are in that gravel pit group?
Why do you keep
Thousands.
bringing up the gravel pit group?
Because
They're not related, in my opinion. This is a different subject.
in a way, to me, it is, because the emotional it amazes me that nuclear waste isn't generating the emotional outburst that a gravel pit did. I'm trying to figure, I can't equate what's going on here. I keep being told there's this massive outrage against this, but yet we're not seeing it.
And you're also continuing to tell people, don't bother talking to me unless you have facts. And we're allowed to have opinions as well.
We stop protect for, so we printed a thing that our attorney brought up. That's the statutes, the legalities of what we can and can't approve.
That
So,
would be very helpful.
There's copies for you, right, Kelly?
Excellent.
So it actually has, because I know that I was brave and commented on something on Facebook and was told I was wrong, but because I was like, it's outside of our city limits, we don't have to approve this. And our previous mayor said that I was wrong in that, but I was actually right. And it outlines the legalities that, yes, we used to within a certain area of our community. We don't have that right anymore.
Correct.
So please take a copy of that, because I'm like, there's people that are going to want to see those.
To give you a brief summation,
Can we put that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to give you a brief summation on it, what they changed the law back in 2019, the legislature did. The way it used to operate is that a municipality within 1 mile of their growth boundary, which is outside. So like you have your border of your town, right? And then outside of that is your growth boundary in a 1 mile radius, right? And so to get something approved, sorry, my nose is itching all of a sudden. To get something approved, it would have to be, if it's in, because it's still county, but it's within the growth boundary, right? To get something approved, it had to be signed off on both by the county and the municipality. Well, the legislature went in 2019 and they changed this. And obviously the municipalities didn't agree with this, but this is before my time. And they changed the code or the statute so that now the county basically has carte blanche to do what they want. And until we annex that within our boundaries, they have basically the ruling authority. We can give opinion. We can say we're against it. We can disagree all we want. But ultimately the county now has the authority over that. Do I agree with that ruling? No, absolutely not. Because what it does is it took all this power and the authority where I believe it should be at with the local municipalities, and they gave it to the county. And so that's the gist of it. It explains it way more in all the legal terms on the paper. But that's basically the gist of it right there, is how it operates.
I do appreciate this coming to light now and for future, when it would just be super helpful if these sort of things, this kind of information could be published. If you guys could say, look, this is the actual facts of it and put it out there.
So
And
in our defense, right? And I'm not trying to be combative or anything. We're working through this too. Okay. So the thing about citizen government is you're dealing with imperfect people also.
Yeah.
And so we're not perfect. And you know, it's one of the things that I don't like about Facebook. Okay. I don't like Facebook because it gives people the persona of, it gives them a protective barrier where they can say anything they want to about another person and not have personal dialogue with that person. And that drives me crazy. Come and talk to me face to face. Let's reason together. That's my mode of operation. And I can't do that. And so we're still, as a council, we're still trying to work through this because we're trying to figure out where all of the parts and pieces go. We're trying to figure out how we can do certain things. And I've never dealt with a situation like this before. And so people expect me as a mayor to have all the answers. And I'm like, guess what? I don't. I'm not Jesus. Jesus has all the answers. I don't. I'm just a man. And I'm working through it just the same as everyone else, trying to get all the information I can, collect and gather. And when we get information, we disseminate it. As you know, that's what we're trying to do. And we, I'm not trying to go on my soapbox here. We received accusations of being bought out by Radiant. We've received accusations of hiding information. We received accusations that we're trying to, you know, support Radiant or we're not support. I mean, like it's all over the place. And I wish people would just attend meetings and ask us questions like, hey, how do you feel about this? Or what do you think about this? Or do you have information on this? Instead, it's a lot of accusations. And that's the part that really frustrates me.
And it is frustrating, and people do make accusations, and people just talk all the time, and they feed off of each other. People are not coming to meetings. They're not coming here and saying things. And a lot of it is also just the displays that happen on Facebook and the arguments that happen. It does not make you guys look good. And it does not make anybody look like things are really being resolved, right? When those kind of situations happen, because they side with their buddy. I know that guy. Oh, he must be right. And it paints this picture of the council as though you're not on the side of the people.
And it really,
Well, wait a minute.
What I'm saying is my opinion. It paints this picture.
I keep hearing this, that it's the people, but so there's people out there that are for it too. So when I've been in those discussions on Facebook, I put it out there that I'm leaning in the camp for it based on the knowledge that I've been given so far in mostly all public meetings by Radiant, and that one town hall was quite a few people. I'll be at all the other town halls and absorbing this information. If I get that magic bullet that says this stuff's going to kill us, I'll be at the point of the spear saying hell no. Right now, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because it's a hell of a good project, in my opinion.
well, and that's what sucks is like this poll that Bill was saying they sent out and there's all these people against it. You guys are the only ones showing up consistently. And you guys have always, it's nice that you guys come every night to these because you've got to represent the people that are against it, not just the people that are for it. But we've got to, those discussions of the being against it, I feel like we got to disseminate why we're against it. And if it's because of health issues and whatnot and nuclear waste, and if there's a potential legislation passing that will allow other states to dump their waste here, right? Then that's what the town hall with Radiant needs to be addressed more there, because we don't write legislation, but you said it's making us look bad. And my gosh, like we know what you know. And it's been really interesting.
I do appreciate the position that you're in. I don't see a lot of people that are for it here either. So 50-50, I don't know.
There's a couple, right?
There's
a guy in the back in a black vest.
Any other petitions or public comment?
Be quick for you. I'm Jamie Lee, House District 38. To mention the loan process here, FEMA's going through an overhaul. I just came from judiciary meetings and we had an update from the Department of Homeland Security. I'll grab my notes and I'll email you folks and tell you the portion that the state's looking at covering versus what we're going to end up asking counties to cover, if anything at all. because they're still waiting to hear from the federal government for 2025 loans. And then the fastest way to repeal your property taxes is to encourage everyone that has a discrepancy is to file a petition and to protest their taxes. If they need help with that process, I'll put myself out there and be step for step. I'll walk with them the whole way. The only way to get that corrected right now is to make sure they file their appeal. It has to be done by May 28th.
But that's on their assessment.
Right, but if they file that, it gets them on the books and then it gets them in front of the
It
panel.
won't work for this because when the assessment was made, it was accurate. So what we're talking about is a change during the year. So if you appeal now, you're appealing your current assessment. Now, if current assessments are wrong, they should make an appeal. That's correct, but that won't actually address this past problem, because what it is it's an overtaxation based on a correct assessment at the time the assessment was made.
But what it does is it makes them pull a 3 to 5 year profile and they can correct that right then and there in front of you.
But they can't. No,
I
they,
assure you that is the way it'll work. And if you ask them for your property
I'm
profile
pretty
taxes,
sure it
3 to
won't.
5 years in advance.
Well,
you can try,
real quick,
try anything.
you know what happened with,
Yes, I understand.
well, they were supposed to drop the 8 mills that Wardwell was collecting.
And
Right.
it happened in a portion halfway through the year, maybe.
Well, not even halfway, unfortunately. November 5th. So, I mean, it should have been in August, but they did it in November 5th. We actually heard the date here. So, about 9 weeks of the year was inaccurately taxed.
So the fastest way for those folks to get that corrected, to get on the assessor's books and in front of a panel, is to file a petition for their taxes right now.
You can try it, but that won't work for that particular problem.
I don't want to meet with, I went to one of those hearings. I want to tell you something about it later.
I would love to hear it because we're taking that up in revenue in a week and a half. So that'd be great. So I'll be happy to send you the overhaul that we heard from the update that we heard from Homeland Security. And then I just wanted to mention that. And that the lobbyist for Radiant was at the Buffalo meeting. And I keep being told that there was mistruth spoken there. I was at that meeting. I was invited to come because I had just attended the Nuclear Energy Institute conference and I learned about spent fuel. So I'm trying to figure out where those mistruths came from because nobody will come to me and tell me what they are. Please, somebody give me an answer. Thank you.
I bet he would.
Thank you. Any other petitions or public comment?
Mayor, Council. I'll have to say, I did watch the Buffalo meeting live stream and I'll say that I thought that the nuclear conversation was actually quite fair in general for most everyone. If I came up here and said misinformation, I was talking actually more so in the grant. Like I'll go back to the gravel pit for a second, and I find it very interesting that folks want to focus way more on the grant in this scenario than learning about the nuclear operations that Radiant's trying to accomplish and ask questions around that. And we're going to have a town hall on Thursday, and I hope people come if they do have true questions there. I came up to talk about, I do have an issue when the representative of this county comes up and says, I've held this poll, the majority are saying no. When I know, again, I have received this poll, I submitted it, I was able to submit, I wanted to see all the questions. And then I was just curious. I went through it again and I submitted it again. So I was able to submit the poll twice. I'm not in bar none. The representative hasn't helped me understand how he's filtering it out. So I have a real issue when people outside of bar none are able to submit this outside of Wyoming. If I wanted to, I could have had my entire company fill this out. I didn't. What is stopping 1 or 2 people in bar none that don't like the project filling it out 1,000 times? So my request or my recommendation is that if you are going to hear this from a representative, that we get the actual data. What phone numbers are tied to this? How are we actually tracking? So Radiant wants to understand the level of concern and what questions are out there. I have a real problem with how information is being portrayed about this.
I did ask Bill, because I did get it text to me, and then I heard this was happening. So I asked Bill to follow up with his polling company to find out, because I didn't try, but could I have forwarded that text to anybody?
It was forwarded to me and I filled it out twice. I could fill it out a third time right now if I wanted.
And I never got it.
Hmm.
So I have an issue.
Get it. I posted too.
Jamie, is it okay to say you have a poll going out or gonna pull one out?
Different company and it's a 12-hour disappearing.
Oh, it is, okay.
When is that one going out? I haven't gotten any polls, so
You feel left out.
I feel left out.
I thought Jane was very, very fair in that Buffalo meeting. So misinformation, I wasn't talking about nuclear. I was talking about, again, I'm more than happy to read the 6th question.
Well, we're stretching the time limit
I'll
for
make-
the speaker here.
I'll make it, I got 17
Hey.
seconds. Would you support the one business council subsidizing companies like Radiant Nuclear up to 25 million with taxpayer money? I work at Radiant, the way that is phrased, I would say no. So when it says 99% say no, I don't know who that 1% is. I actually think it's probably me that one time. But I would say no. The way it's said.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Any other participants or public comment?
There was a question to Ms. Lean about when her poll was going out, and I don't know if she heard it. About when it was going out time-wise.
You want my results when I bring them?
Oh,
I'll send them to you.
Well, I'm sure they would. I think the question is, when was your poll going out so people could respond?
It went out the Tuesday I was at the New York.
Thank you.
We have received that in this area?
No, it was only for House District 38.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Cool.
Do you know how many were sent out?
I have,
District.
but I have not dove into it because I've been doing judiciary.
Okay, any other petitions or public comment? Going once, going twice, sold. And can you give us an update on regional, please?
So not that we haven't had enough Radiant and grant money, but Advanced Casper came to Regional Water today. I believe there's a strategy to get more entities involved to come up with a 10% match into the $8 million ask. So they came and asked Regional to be one of the entities to kick in. There was no commitment on dollars. There was a vote to introduce a letter to Advanced Casper that we were for infrastructure going in up to West Wind's water main because it's regional water. I was the only no vote because it still leads into, we had a great discussion on the role of government money going into developing private property. Four of the members there are Casper City Council. They're used to that game still. I did warn them. Most of the voters are waking up to it. They're not liking that game anymore. So I see that as a losing proposition. We talked about the need for the first time in years, probably the lowest rate increase we're looking at, 3%. Today, we didn't even really argue about it. We just said when we vote on it in June, we'll probably stick to the 3% rate increase. Outside of that, we're finalizing our budget stuff. The nice thing about regional is, it's pretty focused, pretty easy budget, really, to get through. I did have some questions on how Casper gets reimbursed from some stuff because regional is its own entity. It's not owned by Casper. We have an MOU with them to manage the system. We pay them a monthly, they bill us for actual cost and we pay them. But in that, it came to my attention, they receive compensation from regional on a percentage factor that pays for the city manager, the city attorney, when we already have our own attorney. And there's no breakdown of why we're paying all this stuff. That I guess they have some formula they do that was explained to me that a little bit went over my head, but they are going to get me how they've done it the past 10 years. And that they said it would show they're being consistent. I said, I can live with that if I can see how that formula works out. But, other than that, the main things are 3% increase we'll be looking at, which is 7 cents per 1,000 gallons.
Kelly, can we make sure that gets out in the next newsletter so that everyone knows? And let's post it on
Yeah.
Facebook too, so that
And
everyone.
don't say it's not in stone yet. It won't get voted on until.
Oh, yeah, we haven't voted on it yet?
Nope,
Okay, so hold off on that then.
third Tuesday in June,
Okay,
be voting on.
so let us know when they do so that we can make sure we give a heads up to everyone as we have. Everybody gets mad when there's water rate increases like we do it. And it's like, we haven't done a water rate increase except for what regional's done since we took over the water. We can't eat that cost. I mean, that's a tune to like hundreds of thousands of dollars. The town would go bankrupt if we did.
And I believe in the
A lot of
past,
people don't understand that.
cause we buy the water wholesale from regional, same as Casper does. So when Casper gets that 3% increase, they don't have to stop there. They can add to it. And I believe they have in the past. I believe when we get the increased notification, I don't think we've ever added to it. And I know when I was on Wardwell, I think we even ate a year or two.
Yep. So, awesome. Any questions for Dan?
No, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Dan. Just real quick, we're supposed to have an expert come in from INL at the next council meeting. And he's going to speak about the safety of what are the stupid things called?
Cask.
Thank you. The casks, he's going to speak about the safety of the casks, and he's also going to talk about the safety procedures that are required of nuclear facilities and basically like licensing and things of that nature. So that'll be at our next council meeting.
Some people in the audience may not know what INL is.
Oh, INL is Idaho National Laboratory. So they're the ones that do all the testing for nuclear stuff. So they are experts in their field. They are the experts in their field. So they're going to send out an expert to us to kind of tell everybody what's up. That way it'll be on record too. So everyone
I
can.
believe it's a Q&A, isn't it? Or is it just a presentation?
It'll basically, it's a presentation, but we as council, it's not going to be open to the public, sorry. But for us, we can ask any questions that we have. So, that brings me to the point of, get your noodles working and bring some questions so that you can, maybe even post on Facebook like, hey, we're going to have an expert coming in. Are there any questions that you want us to ask?
Email us some questions.
And we can ask it of this expert when they come in. So this guy's supposed to be a pretty knowledgeable dude. I haven't met him, haven't talked to him yet, but so that's in the works. So just to put more information out there and let people make their decision based on that. So anything else from council? You guys got anything? No?
Nope.
All right. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn our regular meeting so that we may go into executive session.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
All right.
Should be about 5 minutes. Executive session and re-enter regular session. No actions were needed. They're taken.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.